Hey, this is Jason coming to you from the home office. Why? Because that's the cool thing to do now. Just joking. I've always been a home office guy. Wanted to send out a quick video to everybody to share my thoughts on coronavirus and best practices and how I've adjusted and everything else, specifically in the real estate space. What makes me qualified to in any way share my opinion would be the first question I would ask. I don't know that I'm any type of expert, but I do have a couple of things going for me that maybe not necessarily everyone else does. First, I am a crazy prepper. I have been living for this. I have been waiting for this. Every day I think about what happens when things get unstable. I'm a safety-driven person. You can ask anybody in any of the masterminds that I'm in or anyone that I meet that went through 2008. I will always pick their brain. What do I do? How do I make sure I'm ready when times become more turbulent? In addition to that, last Wednesday through Friday, I was at Collective Genius in San Diego, which is a mastermind of a lot of the biggest and best of the nation's investors, where we were all talking kind of right when this all hit. I mean, the guy that presented Wednesday last year did 12,000 deals, like 1,000 deals a month nationwide, like big guys that have a good tie into everything nationwide in our specific real estate investment industry. And so we did a couple of roundtables and discussed, best practices, plans on what to do as in times like this. And I would say one other thing that might make me a little qualified would be I operate an entirely virtual staff and have ever since I started. And where virtual staff is becoming kind of more the thing right now, would be happy to share kind of what has worked well, what I've learned that's worked well, and maybe hasn't so much from the virtual staff. So next question I would get is, why are you sharing? You're Jason Lewis. I don't see you super often on Facebook. I don't see you at local RIAs or anything like that. I am a pretty private person. I'm always happy to share anytime I talk to anybody, happy to be abundant go-giver. In the masterminds that I'm in, I'm always happy to share, but overall private. But I decided to break out of my comfort zone on this because of a example from my mission. So it was about 15 years ago, I went on a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to South Africa and Namibia. And when I was in Namibia, I can't remember the exact details, but we had a time where, for whatever reason, the money that we were sent every week didn't come. It was like 2 weeks late or something like that. And I've been this crazy prepper guy for my whole life, including on my mission. And I think I had stockpiled 4 months of money that I was fine to live off of that was just sitting in the bank because I'd figured out how to live on less just in case. And I remember I sent a letter home to my mom, and I was like, look at me, I'm so cool, I have all this money, everyone else is going hungry, wahoo. And moms, especially with missionaries, are usually the happy, supportive, way to go, you're the best. But probably for the only time in my whole mission, I got a letter back that put me in my place. Basically, she said, hey, you had this excess, you had this knowledge, you had everything else, and you chose not to share. You just sat back and were proud of yourself. That's not a follower of Christ. That's not a disciple. That's not the message that you're out sharing. You need to do better. So in an effort to not get rebuked by my mom again, I am taking the opportunity to share, because that was a lesson that hit hard for me. So is the real estate. So as we know, stock market has gone down significantly. People are in quarantine. We're living in a completely different world. Is the real estate market going to crash because of it? I don't know. Honestly, anybody that does know that they know is lying and is overcocky, in my personal opinion. But I can tell you that I have a plan so that we are in a great spot no matter what happens. Left, right, straight, we'll be good anyway. At Collective Genius, we talked about focusing on the things that we can control and not worrying as much about the things that we can't control, but structuring things in such a way so that we can win either way. Real estate is a lot like a haircut. They say, what's the difference between a good haircut and a bad haircut? A couple days, maybe 2 weeks. Real estate's the same. In the meeting, there were people that had been around since pre-2008, and the people that did well talked about, I had all these homes. Now that they were worth a whole lot less, but I just held on, and now they're worth way more than they even were then. And so because of that, the secret to surviving any type of correction, and again, I'm not saying that we're about to go through a recession. I'll go into kind of some of the specifics that I'm seeing later, but the secret to surviving any type of turbulent times is cash. Having either your own cash or access to capital, because when you have cash, you can make decisions based off of what makes the most sense. When you have cash and when you have a calm mind, you can make decisions based off of rationale, based off of data, based off of what's going to make the most sense, rather than just making decisions based off of fear, panic, and what you have to do right now. And this much I know, the Utah market has really strong fundamentals. I read an article the other day that says right now we have a housing shortage just in Utah of 55,000 homes, right? Utah is a simple supply and demand problem. We have significantly more demand than what we have supply. So I know, the one thing that I know is that, 5-10 years from now, homes will be worth more in Utah than they are today. And 15, 20, and so the long term is established. You can run it based off of fundamentals. What does the next couple weeks look like? What does the next month, 6 months, year look like? That's what we're all going to find out. But like a haircut, if we're set up to where we can have patience and wait, we're going to be fine regardless. So the other thing, whether it be the stock market, so this comes from all of the stock market books that I've read, all the real estate books that I read. The people that win in the markets are the people that continue to buy. They buy all the way up, they buy all the way down, they continue to buy. But while yes, it's looking like this, the overall is up. The only people that lose in the markets are the people that are trying to time the markets. It's the same with the stock market. It's the same with real estate. I read a great stock market book by Tony Robbins called Unshakable that dives into this well. If you're really in quarantine and bored and looking to spend an extended period of time on this, you can read Tony Robbins' Money Master the Game, which is like, I think if you listen to it, it's like 24 hours or something like that. Like it's a 1,000-page book. He condensed it down into Unshakable. Very good. Doesn't talk as much about real estate, talks more about the markets. I'm going to bet that if you were to talk to Tony Robbins, he's probably in the market right now, riding it up, riding it down. That's the point. You put the money in, you ride it up, you ride it down. But regardless, now is the time where possible to have as much cash as you can have and to retain as much cash as you can while continuing to do business and continuing to buy. So something that I did, I had a couple of home equity lines of credit on some paid for properties. I pulled those home equity lines of credit and have them sitting so I have access to the cash. One thing that investors told me happened in 2008 is when things got crazy. And by the way, like in terms of like real estate and finance and everything else, like we're at like this crazy 2008 crazy, right? Like huge difference. I don't know whether or not we're headed here, but we're nowhere near that crazy now. But as a precaution for me, in 2008, banks made it so people could not pull their home equity lines of credit. Like they just withdrew the right. So because of that, I'm choosing to pay the interest and have the money just sit there as a safety net. The other thing I would suggest, if I were a smaller investor with less access to credit and things like that, right now I would say would be the time for doing what's called joint venturing or partnering with your lenders. So rather than saying, hey, I will pay you, 2 points and 12%, I would say if you have lenders that are okay with it, and oftentimes this is going to be friends, family, people that are wealthy, I would come to them and say, hey, I will split the profits with you on this. Then it's not debt, then you have a partnership. And so essentially you say, hey, I would be looking for people to say, hey, will you fund the purchase and the rehabs, and then I will split the profits with you. And you can do that for a person as a first, doing all the money, or you can do it as a second to retain as much of your cash as possible. So I found in my talking to people about COVID-19 coronavirus, it seems like most people are in one extreme party or the other. And I'd like to talk to both sides just for a minute. The one extreme is coronavirus is the flu. People are buying toilet paper for nothing and everything will be normal tomorrow. Like, just knock it off. Nothing's wrong. So to talk to that person, the data doesn't back up that doesn't back up that stance. You're probably what most people would say in a state of denial. We just had $1 trillion sucked out of the economy, and it looks like we've got more to come. Like a friend who's really close with Gary Keller told me the other day that Gary Keller said, Gary Keller is the founder of Keller Williams, one of the smartest guys in our industry. He said, you don't get to have this much money sucked out of the economy and not be in a recession. Regardless of what the media is calling it, we're in a recession. There will be an impact. You need to be on your game and lose your state of denial. On the other end, it's we're all going to die. This is the end of the world. Fire sell everything. Stock up on your toilet paper and hand sanitizer, and don't leave the house for 2 years. On that side, probably a little too far on that way. No, we're not. If you look, cases are slowing in China. There's a good chance flu season comes to an end. All markets that go down bounce back. And here's the other thing. Real estate doesn't always follow the stock market. If you look at the .com crash and 9/11, which to me, this feels the most like a 9/11 type of event. The stock market crashed, but real estate held pretty normal and look up. I mean, Google it and look at some charts. You'll see just because the stock market crashes doesn't mean that the real estate market crashes. That's not to say that it's not going to, but don't assume, the most recent recession that all of us see in our minds was 2008. So we assume recession equals stock market crash. But if you look historically, it doesn't. Sure, the markets turn, they expand and contract, but the real estate market doesn't necessarily follow the stock market every single time. Yeah, life will be normal. Honestly, there's a good chance that most of us may not even know someone who dies from the coronavirus. And worst case, we lost a year or two of gains. But follow what the things your church, your government, your everything else is saying, follow it, stick with it. And if everybody collectively stays, what do they call it? Social distanced, we should be able to get through this thing pretty quick. Utah market has strong fundamentals. And here's the other thing, this is what I'm seeing in the market. Things still appear to be really strong. Yesterday, my team set more appointments than we do on an average week in one day. We have, I think we're somewhere between 6 and 7 times the results of setting appointments and having people that are looking to sell. On the back end, we had 2 of the highest attended showings we've ever had yesterday. Now, granted, these were also smoking deals on great houses. And the one listing that I have right now that has actually been sitting on the market for a couple of months because I had it priced a little on the high end. I had somebody hit me up yesterday, an agent that showed it and said, hey, we're going to be sending you an offer. So the pulse that I'm getting on the market is that everything in Utah appears to be overall pretty strong, but with the exception of my Airbnbs, which are not doing well at all. So the hospitality Airbnb market is struggling significantly. Everything else seems to be okay for now. So what am I doing based off of all of this? Me personally, I'm still buying. I won't stop buying. Why? A couple reasons. I believe in what I said before. Those that continue to buy on the up and the down are what do the best. In addition to that, I feel like now is a time to cement in key relationships, right? We have these key relationships and people that supported us in the good. Now's where we get to choose if we're going to be there for them in the hard. An example of that would be my contractors. I've had some loyal contractors who have done a great job at working for me through all of the ups when they had plenty of opportunities to work for other people. And I feel as long as I can, I will continue to give them work through the scary time. I also want to keep relationships with my lenders, and I believe in Utah fundamentals. I am using a little more leverage than I have in the past to make sure that I just keep my cash here so that I'm fine. And again, even if I didn't have the amount of cash, I would still be looking for partners and things like that. Another huge thing to be doing right now is communication. So on Saturday, I called every lender that I had and say, hey, almost every lender that I had and said, hey, here's what's going on. As we know, times of uncertainty. That said, my properties are fine. We're moving along. We're on pace. Chances are these lenders just took a horrible beating in the stock market, and emotionally they're not necessarily in the great spot, so they could use some reassurance. And if anything, it can be a reason why they would want to funnel more money from there to you. One big thing that I've done is I've gotten particular on the specific inventory that I want to own and the things that I'm remodeling. So you'll notice that today I sent out a great house in Eagle Mountain. I've recently sent out some great houses in Magna, West Valley, Kearns. Like, these are homes that are ideal flips. And you know, if most people probably don't watch my close that stuff, but if you were, you'd be like, what? This seems like really nice stuff for Jason. Why is he sending it out? Here's why. It doesn't meet my specific inventory criteria of, so I set up a criteria of what would I be willing to own through an extended period of recession if needed. So I had planned on selling a ugly duplex in Brigham City and flipping this home in Eagle Mountain. It made for a perfect flip in a great market, and the one in Brigham City was just a lot of work. That said, I am from Ogden. Eagle Mountain is a long ways away. If the market goes down and I wind up needing to keep that Eagle Mountain house as a rental, I know myself, and I know that at some point I'm going to do something stupid. I'll fire sale it. It's going to be too hard to manage something, a 2-hour drive from my, I mean, those of you not from Utah, Eagle Mountain is the middle of nowhere. So I know that I'm not going to want to manage something that far away. So while yes, in a prior market, Eagle Mountain was a better flip, because of what's going on today, the crappy duplex in Brigham City is a better flip. I'm fortunate because I have the right to wholesale. I have the ability to wholesale. I've got a 3,500 person cash buyers list, and so I can take these homes and send them out, have a ton of showings, a great walkthrough, and get them sold within a week or two. Here's the good news for those of you that are local. You have the ability to wholesale as well. I am one thing that I am happy to do is partner up with people and wholesale their deals for them. Here's how that looks. You and I'll agree on a price, and actually it probably won't be you and me. It'll be Rob on my team, who is excellent. He's actually read, you know, that like super long Money Master the Game book that I was telling you about before. He's read the book. He's an agent and excellent guy on my team, specifically designed to help with relationships with other professionals and things like that. So you'll talk to him. You guys will agree on a price. Say, hey, I'm good to sell the home for this price. And if that's a price that we agree, we will send it out, and anything that we can get above that price, we will get. So essentially, you're becoming the seller and we're becoming the investor in this case. So I've been doing relationships like this previously. Before I was a wholesaler, I would do this with other wholesalers in Utah, and now as the wholesaler, I do it for a whole bunch of investors. So we get it under contract, assignable. We will send it out to our list, and we will assign it. So if you have any inventory that you're not in love with right now and want to see what you could get for it, and see if you can't just cash out right now, you have that opportunity, and I'd be more than happy to partner with you on it. It definitely has been something I've been grateful for the opportunity to do ourselves. I choose to wholesale. I am an agent. I choose to wholesale rather than list. I feel like the wholesale path right now, sending things out to a wholesale list and assigning the contract, is generating more, it's quicker, and it's just a process that's more favorable to our current market conditions. If you're not in Utah, I would suggest you find a local wholesaler, partner up with them, and do something similar to that. Couple other points. Having a virtual staff is fine. Everyone can work from home and you can still accomplish great things. I promise. I've done it. I've done it for years. There's two fantastic apps to help with this. One's called Time Doctor. The other's called Hubstaff. I can literally see exactly what's on my on my team's monitors. I can see when they clock in, when they clock out, and exactly what they're working on. I know more about my staff and what they're doing than I used to when I was working next door to them. You can do a lot through phone calls and or Google Hangouts, Google Meet, or Zoom calls. Now is not the time, in my opinion, for buying doodads. Let's say you just refinance your house and you have some cash. Hold off 6 months on getting the razor. now would be the time to keep the cash, not buy doodads. Now that said, I always say, hey, if you're not going to listen to me, this is what you should buy. If you're not going to listen to me, I would suggest buying. If you're not going to listen to me, and you're a person that loves the gym, and your gym just closed, I would suggest buying the NordicTrack Fusion CST. I bought that recently. It's like an entire gym in one thing. And then you can have iFit. They'll take you through a workout. Google it. It's awesome. So we're losing nothing from not having access to the gym because of that little machine, which has been awesome. Interest rates are at an all-time low. It would be a great time to refinance, lock in long-term financing. And honestly, right now, things are looking really positive. If things stay at the pace that they're at, we could be the Costco instead of the Carnival Cruises of our industry. And I would say if that stays the case, I would strongly encourage you as a real estate investor, if we're the Costco in this, not the Carnival, I would strongly suggest that you give. I'm going to take the opportunity over the next little bit, if things stay strong, to ramp up my giving to levels that we've never done before. There are people everywhere that are significantly struggling because of what just happened. And you know what? There's opportunity. In our space, things may get worse. I know there's places where like the courthouses and counties have closed, meaning you can't record a deed. That pretty much ends the buying and selling business for a little bit. We will keep doing everything we can to provide as much value to the marketplace as we can. We'll keep doing those Matterport 3D tours where you can do like the Google Street View through our houses, inspections where we can. Ideally, have it to where you can buy houses from your home if you need to. As a summary, things are good. No need to panic. You'll not regret a good real estate buy. Again, the people in CG that held through last time through a terrible real estate recession wound up fine, and they were great. Now's the time to communicate with your lenders, contractors, people that work for you, people who are looking for reassurance. Now's the time to be kind. Now's the time to be as giving as you can. Focus on the inventory that you'd be happy to keep. If you need help and you're in Utah, would be happy to help you wholesale and get rid of the inventory you're not interested in. If you're outside of Utah, I would suggest finding a local wholesaler to partner with. Parting thought. I would suggest that you limit your news and social media input. Obviously, there's a lot changing in the market, and we want to know what's going on. Here's the thing. If something crazy happens, they will find you. They will figure out a way to let you know. Your spouse will let you know. Your mom will let you know. Someone will let you know anything crazy that you need to know. If you absolutely just can't handle it, schedule twice a day. I'm going to check in, make sure nothing's crazy. The media is taking advantage of this. You want to talk that, you've got we think like, oh man, Costco and Amazon are in a great spot because of this, and like Carnival and Delta are bad. No one is taking advantage of this situation more, in my opinion, than the news media. Their ratings are at an all-time high. They are monetizing more than anything our fear, our panic, and everything else. And they know that whoever can induce the most fear and most panic and create the strongest emotional reaction is who is going to get the most views and everything else. So I would suggest, I've done it, right? Yesterday, we had a record-breaking day at Creation Utah. Appointment set, everything went fabulous. I took a minute to make sure everything was fine, scroll through the news, scroll through social media, and at the end of it, it was like, the world is ending, I'm going to die. But then I look at the numbers in my company, and everything looks great. So you get to choose. What do you want to focus on? Do you want to focus on the things you can control? Do you want to focus on building your business, growing, and positivity? Or do you want to focus on the food that the news media is feeding you that's going to make you sick? That's your choice. Rob's phone number. If you are interested in co-wholesaling with me, I will include Rob's phone number as a message under this. Also, if you have any questions about this, reach out to Rob as well. He and I have talked about this a lot. I am in meetings from when I push send on this until the end of day today, and am just slammed trying to make everything happen with this. That's why he's here to help, and would be more than happy to answer any questions or help in any way. I I am more than happy to respond when I get the chance to any email responses to this as well. Appreciate getting to share the real estate market with you. We're going to be fine and excited to see what the future brings.